Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Romero from the Glasso Learning Solutions. On this week's Genuine Learning blog, we will be discussing the 2024 AICPA Fall Council that took place in Atlanta, Georgia from October 22nd and 24th. So the biggest thing at this council meeting was it was Barry Melancon's last council meeting. So as he began his first session, he let everyone know that he had been to 292 council meetings. That does include regional meetings. And he had also participated in 151 board meetings. So Barry also talked about current affairs, regulatory issues, and legislative issues. He also cautioned everybody to not lose mobility as we're looking at all this different pathway and pipeline initiatives. He also talked about the concerns and priorities both for firms and for corporate finance and accounting teams. So for firms, they are focusing and their concerns are on finding and keeping qualified staff, working with the IRS and tax law, and technology, either leveraging it or keeping up with it. The concerns and priorities for corporate finance and accounting teams is digital transformation, generative AI and AI, keeping and finding people as well, needing new skills and competencies, and also the culture in a hybrid environment. So we also had a lunch that was honoring Barry, and that's what the picture is here that you see. One thing that really stuck out to me throughout his presentations were his words of wisdom that he left everybody with. So there was a question to him that asked why he didn't always respond to either criticism or stuff that was out in the media. And he said that a lot of times you have to hold back and not respond because you're going to be creating that next level. So something that might have been going away in a day or so, if you respond, you're just adding more fuel to the fire and it's not going to go away. And one of the other things that he said that was impactful for me, as you know, I think a lot of us out there have imposter syndrome from time to time. He talked about when he first started in this role and how somebody had told him that people put him into that position and you're put into positions and roles for a reason and to just be yourself. So I think that's something that we can all take and learn from. Next, we had the introduction of the new CEO for the AICPA, Mark Koziel. So he came to us via video from Singapore. And if you had been around the AICPA for a while, you'll know that Mark is no stranger. He was with the AICPA for 14 years before spending the last 5 years as the CEO at Alina Group. And so I was lucky to have worked with him and met him when he was at the AICPA. He did a lot with the Leadership Academy. So I'm very excited to see him back, and he'll be stepping into this role as of January 1st, 2025. Some of the other sessions that we had were more update sessions. So the first one was a NASBA update, and this one was presented by the current NASBA chair, Stephanie Saunders. And so she talked about those two exposure drafts, the UAA amendment and that additional CPA pathway. And then also the CPA evolution test and that rollout and how technology-wise that went very well. And then they also had a CEO selection for NASBA this year, and they selected Dan Dustin for that role. The other update was on the CPA pipeline. So a team of 6 from the AICPA that was led by Sue Coffey talked about some of the initiatives and some of what's going on with the pipeline. And so they talked about the key milestones that have happened since Spring Council. That included the NPAG report, the STEM campaign, a pipeline pledge, also the competency-based pathway exposure drafts, then that UAA update, and then most recently some table roundtables they've been having. And then they also spoke about the competency-based experience pathway and how they got to that point. So they said that they had gone through, at the very beginning, they had that pipeline research, then they created the NPAG, and then they had a pathway research, talking with joint working groups, and then now they have the exposure drafts. And then they also went through and described the steps to amend the Uniform Accountancy Act. And this is actually jointly owned by the AICPA and NASBA. So the steps are having joint committee, then a board vote, then the exposure, and then another board vote. So a 4-step process there. And then they also went through the pipeline update. And so that's what our next slide focuses on. So this is actually a table that came from their presentation at council from the CPA pipeline and tabletop discussion presentation. And I think this is really important to share because a lot of people, we got the recommendations of what the NPAG report said that we should be doing to help the pipeline. And then the question was, now that we have this report and we know what we should be doing, how are we going to take these next steps, and what's the AICPA going to do with these as well? So here you can see that there are all 6 themes that the MPAG report had talked about: the telling a compelling story, enhancing the employee experience, expanding access for underrepresented people, growing support for the CPA exam candidates, creating a more engaging academic experience, addressing the time and the cost of education, and also creating data warehouses. And so what this is showing is by quarter what their focus is going to be on each of these themes and what they're going to do in each of those themes. So a lot of them you can see are going to be done throughout the year in 2025. But there are some, for instance, the growth support for CPA exam candidates, where you have 2 different items that are going to be happening, and one's not starting until quarter 3. So take a look at this, and this will be helpful so that you get an idea of what is going on at the AICPA to really promote and have this movement going forward. We also had reports from different committees and AICPA departments. So we had some insights from the Future of Finance Leadership Advisory Group. This is led by Tom Hood, and their focus are on those top issues in corporate finance and accounting teams. So that digital transformation, generative AI, keeping talent, having the culture in a hybrid environment. We also heard a report from the Assurance Service Executive Committee, and their areas of focus are on the SOX reports, related services, blockchain and digital assets, AI, as well as sustainability. Then we moved into a finance and operations report that was given by Scott Spiegel and Lindsay Stevenson, where they reviewed the key performance indicators, some financial projections, and a preview of the 2025 budget. And then finally, we ended with legislative, regulatory, and political update. And this was right before the election. So there was a lot of talk about the election and the federal tax outlook, the TCJA, what was going to happen with that. And so some of this, now that we have gone through the election and we do know who's going to be the next president, we'll have some better understanding of what some of these initiatives are going to be going forward. But they also talked about some of the other work that they're doing. So their STEM and advocacy in the press, academia, and Congress, and kind of a call to action there to really get this moving. And then they also had a list of 20 other issues that they're working on. So that group is very busy. The last thing and the best part, I think, about going to council and being on council, so I am an at-large council member, is the connections that you make. So here is just a few pictures from my time at Fall Council. We have our AICPA Leadership Academy alumni, all the people that are members of council that are also graduates of the Leadership Academy. Then I have a picture here with Lisa Simpson and Catherine Horton. And then also the current AICPA chair, Carla McCall, Lindsay Stevenson, and Aaron Roche. So this is the thing that I think you gain the most value out of, is making those connections and networking and really diving in and just appreciating the profession together. So that is going to wrap it up for today's blog as we looked back at the AICPA Fall Council for 2024. Have a good night. Bye-bye.